She only went to the airport to help her sister, but one wrong hello led her into a stranger's car, and a secret that was never meant to be found. The arrival hall shimmered with glass and light. The air buzzed with the low hum of rolling suitcases and flight announcements. Maya adjusted the strap of her small floral purse and checked the sign in her hand. "Welcome home, Priya." Her sister was supposed to meet a guest from the company, but a last-minute headache had sent Maya instead. She had laughed it off. How hard could an airport pickup be? The scent of coffee drifted from a cafe nearby, mingling with the sharp tang of disinfectant. She glanced around, searching for a familiar face among the travelers spilling through the gate. Then she saw him. Tall. Impeccably dressed. Eyes sharp as if cut from glass. He moved with a kind of quiet authority that made people step aside without realizing it. Maya's breath hitched. He looked directly at her sign. His stride quickened. Before she could say a word, he smiled, controlled, polite, like someone who was used to getting exactly what he expected. "Priya?" he asked. The word hung between them like a thread. Maya froze. For a heartbeat, she forgot to breathe. His voice was smooth, but there was something in it, a kind of weariness, an echo of distance. She opened her mouth, ready to explain, but his gaze held hers, and something in his eyes stopped her. He looked lonely. A man surrounded by the noise of the world yet untouched by it. "Yes," she heard herself say. The lie fell softly, like a feather drifting to the floor. He nodded once, relieved, and took the suitcase from her hand before she could react. A faint trace of cedar and rain clung to his coat. They walked side by side through the sliding glass doors, the cold evening air wrapping around them. Maya's pulse thudded in her ears. The city lights flickered against the windshield as his sleek black car pulled up to the curb. The driver opened the door with silent precision. Maya hesitated. Every instinct whispered that something was wrong. His hand rested lightly on her elbow. "Come," he said softly. The word was gentle, but there was no space for refusal in it. Maya stepped inside. The door shut behind her with a sound that felt too final. The world outside blurred as the car began to move. Only then did she notice the envelope on the seat beside her, her name written on it in perfect handwriting. Not Priya. Maya. She turned toward him, heart hammering, as he watched her with a calm, unreadable smile. "Welcome back," he said. And in that moment, she realized he had known all along. The air in the car grew thick, heavy with a silence that seemed to hum. Her throat went dry. The city outside melted into streaks of golden shadow. Somewhere deep inside, a flicker of unease began to burn hotter, brighter, unstoppable. He leaned slightly closer. "I have been waiting for you," he whispered. Maya's fingers tightened around the envelope. Her reflection in the window looked pale and unfamiliar. She tried to speak, but her voice caught in her chest as the car turned sharply off the main road into darkness. The tires whispered against the wet asphalt. Street lights thinned until there were none at all. Only the rhythmic flash of passing headlights touched his face now and then, carving it into fragments of light and shadow. Maya's heartbeat quickened. The air smelled faintly of rain and leather, mixed with something colder, like metal. She glanced toward the window, but all she could see was her own reflection staring back, pale and uncertain. "Where are we going?" she asked finally. Her voice sounded too small, almost swallowed by the hum of the engine. He did not answer right away. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, as though listening to a sound only he could hear. Then he smiled again. "To a place where we can talk," he said. The words were soft, but they pressed against her skin like ice. Her pulse thudded in her temples. She turned the envelope over in her hands. Her name gleamed in silver ink, elegant and deliberate. It was not her sister's handwriting. Her throat tightened as she broke the seal. Inside was a single photograph. Her. Standing outside her apartment that morning, wearing the same dress. The edges trembled in her fingers. She looked up at him. His gaze was fixed on the road, calm and focused, But there was something different in his expression now, something measured, watching her without looking directly. Her stomach twisted. "How do you know my name?" she whispered. He glanced at her reflection in the glass. "I always know who I am meeting," he said quietly. The rain began to fall harder, tracing thin silver lines down the windows. The sound filled the silence like a pulse. Maya's hands grew cold. She tried to steady her breathing, but the air felt too thick, too still. Her phone vibrated in her purse, a sudden, sharp burst of sound in the quiet. She grabbed it. One new message. From Priya. "Do not go with him." Maya's breath caught. Her fingers trembled as she tried to unlock the screen, but before she could, his hand moved, swift, graceful, and the phone was gone. He placed it face down on the seat between them. His tone remained calm, almost kind. "It is safer if you do not look at that right now." Her heart thundered so loudly she could hear nothing else. The car slowed as the road narrowed into darkness, trees pressing close on both sides like tall, silent witnesses. A dim light appeared ahead, a single house, half hidden behind mist. He looked at her then, really looked. And for the first time, his smile vanished. "Maya," he said, her name falling heavy and certain in the quiet, "you were never supposed to take her place." The car rolled to a stop in front of the house. The rain softened to a drizzle, but the world felt heavier, as though the air itself was holding its breath. Maya's pulse thundered in her ears. The windows of the house glowed faintly, golden from inside, yet the light felt wrong, too still, too warm, like a flame that never flickered. He stepped out first. The car door opened for her, slow and deliberate, as if inviting her into something she could not escape. She hesitated, her fingers gripping the edge of the seat. The driver stood by the porch, motionless, face hidden beneath a cap. A faint shiver crawled up her arms. "Please," she whispered, "I think there's been a mistake." He turned toward her, rain streaking across his dark hair. "No mistake," he said. "Only timing." Lightning flickered somewhere far off, throwing the house into sharp relief, ivy crawling across its walls like veins. He held out his hand. Maya stepped out, the gravel cold and slick beneath her shoes. Her breath fogged in the chill air. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked once, then silence swallowed the sound. He guided her toward the door. Each step echoed, heavy and hollow, as though the ground were remembering something. The door opened before they reached it. An older woman stood in the doorway, her face calm but her eyes darting briefly to Maya. "She came," the woman said softly, as though relieved. Maya's stomach nodded. He nodded once, motioning for her to enter. Inside, the air smelled faintly of jasmine and old paper. A clock ticked steadily somewhere unseen. On the mantel, a fire burned low, its light catching on framed photographs, dozens of them. Maya's gaze darted to one. Her breath stopped. It was her sister. Smiling, standing beside the same man now watching her. The date printed on the bottom corner was last week. Maya stumbled back, her shoulder hitting the wall. "What is this?" she demanded, voice breaking. He did not move. The firelight danced in his eyes, gold and unreadable. "She was meant to come tonight," he said quietly. "But you came instead." His tone carried no anger, only a strange, almost sorrowful certainty. Maya shook her head, the words tangling on her tongue. "Where is she?" The woman by the door lowered her gaze. He stepped closer, the scent of rain and cedar wrapping around her again. "She made a choice," he said. "Now you must finish what she began." Maya's skin prickled. The clock struck once, sharp, metallic, final. And as its echo faded, a faint sound rose from behind the closed door at the end of the hall. A voice. Familiar. Calling her name. Maya froze. The voice drifted through the stillness, soft, weak, but unmistakably real. Her name again. A whisper, trembling, pleading. "Help me." Her heart lurched into her throat. "That," she stammered, eyes wide, "that is Priya." The man did not answer. He only watched her, expression unreadable, as if measuring the edges of her fear. The older woman's hands twisted together, pale against the dark fabric of her dress. "Do not open that door," she murmured, almost to herself. But Maya was already moving. Her legs felt unsteady, her breath short, but the sound of her sister's voice pulled her forward. Each step along the hallway felt heavier than the last. The floor creaked softly beneath her feet, the air growing colder, sharper, carrying the faint scent of damp wood and something metallic. Behind her, she heard him say quietly, "She will not understand." The doorknob was cold against her palm. She turned it slowly. The hinges groaned as the door opened into darkness. A single light flickered overhead, buzzing faintly. The room was bare except for a chair in the center, and the figure sitting in it. Priya. Her wrists bound with silk ties, her head drooping forward, hair tangled across her face. Maya's breath broke into a gasp. She rushed forward. "Priya." Her sister lifted her head weakly. "Maya," she whispered, voice raw. "Run." Before Maya could reach her, the door slammed shut behind her. The sound cracked through the air like a gunshot. Maya spun around, pounding on the door. "Open it." No answer. Only the low hum of the light and her own ragged breathing. She turned back toward her sister, tears blurring her vision. "What happened? What is this?" Priya's eyes were wide with fear. "He said he needed one of us," she said. "He said it had to be the one who stayed." Maya's stomach twisted. "The one who stayed," she repeated, voice trembling. Priya nodded weakly. "He wanted me to leave with him, to take his offer. But I refused." Her voice broke. "He said there would still be a place for me. A room." Maya stepped back, every nerve screaming that she should not be there. The light flickered again, and for a moment, she thought she saw movement behind the mirror on the far wall, something faint, like a shadow shifting just out of sight. "Maya," Priya whispered, "he thinks you are me." The words hit like ice water. And from the other side of the door came the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, getting closer. The footsteps stopped just outside the door. The silence that followed was unbearable. Maya could hear her own heartbeat, frantic and loud, echoing in her chest like a trapped bird. The light above them buzzed once more, dimmed, then steadied. She looked at Priya, whose eyes glistened with desperate warning. "Do not let him in," Priya whispered. Maya's back pressed against the door. Her palms were slick with sweat, her breath shallow. Then the handle turned. Slowly. The soft scrape of metal against metal filled the room, and every hair on Maya's arms stood on end. The door did not open. Instead, a voice came through, calm, steady, almost kind. "You were not supposed to see her yet." Maya clenched her fists. "Who are you?" she demanded. "What do you want from us?" There was a pause. When he spoke again, his tone was softer, almost mournful. "Balance," he said. "That is all I have ever wanted." Something shifted behind the mirror. Maya turned toward it, her breath catching. The faint reflection no longer showed just the two of them, it showed three figures. Her, Priya, and a third shape standing right behind her shoulder. Maya spun around, but there was no one there. A low hum filled the air, the mirror trembling as faint cracks began to spread across its surface. "Priya," Maya whispered, "what is this place?" Her sister's voice trembled. "He calls it the exchange." Maya's throat tightened. "What does that mean?" Priya shook her head, tears streaking down her face. "He said every choice leaves an echo, and someone has to stay behind to keep the balance." The light flickered violently. From behind the door came the faint, rhythmic sound of keys turning, locks sliding open one by one. Maya's body stiffened. Priya's eyes widened. "He is coming," she whispered. The final lock clicked. The door creaked open just enough for a sliver of golden light to spill across the floor. He stood there, framed by the glow of the hallway. His face calm. His eyes hollow. Maya, he said softly, it is time to choose. Behind him, the older woman appeared again, holding a second chair. She set it beside Priya's without a word. The air thickened until it felt like breathing through water. Maya took a step back, her spine pressing against the cold mirror. What happens if I do not choose? She asked, voice shaking. He met her gaze. Then the house will decide for you. And as he said it, the mirror behind her began to hum louder, vibrating, glowing faintly from within, until her reflection started to move on its own, turning toward her with a slow, deliberate smile. You said. Maya's breath hitched. Her reflection moved independently now, each motion slightly delayed, like a puppet following a hidden rhythm. It tilted its head to the side, smiling in a way her face never could, too wide, too knowing. The glass trembled, whispering faintly, as though something inside was breathing. Behind her, the man stepped closer. You see, he said softly, the mirror does not lie. It remembers what must stay. Maya could not look away. Her reflection raised its hand and pressed it against the inside of the glass. The surface rippled like water. Her own skin began to tingle where their palms met, cold blooming beneath her flesh. Stop, she gasped, pulling away, but the reflection's hand stayed there, the smile widening. He watched her, eyes unreadable. You took her place once, he said. Now the balance demands the same. Priya shook her head violently, tears spilling down her cheeks. No, she whispered. Please, not her. I will stay. He turned toward her. You already did. Maya's stomach twisted as she looked at her sister, really looked. The edges of Priya's figure seemed to waver, as though the air around her was bending. Her skin looked too pale, her outline too thin, fading with each flicker of light. Priya? Maya's voice broke. Her sister reached for her, but her fingers passed through the air, dissolving into mist. Maya staggered back. What is happening to her? She is returning to where she belongs, the man said quietly. You came in her place. The mirror knows. The reflection's hand pressed harder against the glass, its eyes darkening. Then, with a soft crack, the mirror began to split. Thin lines raced across its surface, and a faint light seeped through each fracture. The air pulsed with a low vibration that made the floor tremble beneath Maya's feet. Priya's voice grew faint. Run, Maya, before it. A deafening shatter cut her words in half. The mirror burst outward in a spray of glass and light. Maya threw up her arms, but instead of shards cutting her skin, the fragments hovered midair, floating, spinning slowly, each piece reflecting a different version of her face. In every reflection, her eyes were open, but only one of them blinked. The other smiled. And from within the glowing fragments came her own voice, layered and distorted, whispering in perfect unison. You cannot leave. You are already here. The room began to twist, the walls bending inward like paper curling in a flame. The man stepped back, his gaze calm, almost reverent. The exchange is complete, he murmured. Maya's scream caught in her throat as the world folded around her. And her reflection stepped out of the light, reaching for her hand. Maya's hand trembled as the reflection's fingers brushed hers. The touch was not cold this time, it was warm. Familiar. Alive. For a moment, the two stood face to face, mirror and flesh, each breathing in the same rhythm. The light around them dimmed, softening into a quiet, golden haze. Behind them, the house seemed to exhale, its walls settling, the vibration fading into silence. The man lowered his gaze, his voice barely above a whisper. Every choice leaves its shadow, he said. And every shadow must one day stand in the light. Maya looked down at her sister, who now rested peacefully on the floor. Priya's features had softened, her breathing steady again, color slowly returning to her skin. She was free. Maya turned back to the reflection. It smiled gently now, not the cruel, knowing grin from before, but something tender, almost grateful. Maya understood. Someone had to stay. She closed her eyes, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. When she opened them again, her reflection was gone. Only the faint shimmer of dust hung in the air, and the mirror, whole once more, reflected her standing alone. The man stepped forward and opened the door. Morning light spilled through, pale and soft, carrying the scent of rain-washed earth. He looked at her one last time. "It is finished," he said. "Go." Maya stepped outside. The air felt sharp, clean, real. Behind her, the house stood quiet, its windows dark. No sound. No voices. Only stillness. A car waited at the end of the gravel path, the same black car, but the driver's seat was empty. She walked toward it, each step lighter than the last. When she turned to look back, the house was gone. Only a field of wild grass swayed where it had stood. The morning sun broke through the clouds, warm against her face. Maya breathed deeply, the first true breath she had taken in days. A single envelope rested on the car seat. Her name was written on it in the same elegant hand. She opened it slowly. Inside was a photograph, just one. Two sisters standing in sunlight, smiling, whole. No shadows behind them. Maya pressed the photo to her chest, closed her eyes, and let the wind carry away the last whisper of the house. Balance had been restored. And for the first time, she felt free.